Sandra Donnelly from Creative Passages. Thank you for stopping by. Today is October 24th, 2024, and I would like to show you what I've been up to for the past 10 days from October 13th to October 23rd, which was yesterday. So I have this big body of work. Well, it's not really that big, but I have some artwork here I'd like to show you. I have collages, I have Sharpie drawings, I have oil pastel drawings, I have some paintings, and I have some jelly prints and collage fodder that I would like to show you. So I'm going to show you my art in person because I just decided that's more personable than just showing you a slideshow. But I'm going to follow this up with a slideshow so you can get a better look at the artwork. And in the slideshow, which is scans of my art, I like to increase the contrast and do a little autocorrect. So, yeah, so they'll look, I think they look just a little bit more visually better, but you can kind of see the difference then between seeing in person and seeing the slideshow. So let me show you the artwork. So I tried to categorize this according to the type of art that it was, and somewhat according to the date, but more so in categories of what they are. So this was my oil pastel drawing, and this was done actually this past Sunday, which I believe was the 20th. So this is just oil pastel, and I actually did this during church while I was listening to worship and the teaching. And I think that one turned out really well. So I also do this thing called emotional landscape art. I do a lot of these. These are usually collages. Sometimes I throw in some Sharpies and other types of, mark making tools. I always usually incorporate oil pastels, tissue papers, and scrapbooking papers. So this one has all of that. Doesn't have the Sharpie though, just oil pastels, tissue papers, and scrapbooking papers for this one, which I started on 10/16 and I finished on 10/18. I like to do these because I think they're a good way of keeping track of my moods and my psychological landscape. I think art is a projection of you, your personality, everything you're going through. All your feelings get projected in your art. That's why I'm an art therapist. So I do these things. I keep track of them. I put the dates on them. I didn't used to put the date on them, but I am now. And I like to put when I start and when I finish, or the days that I'm working on it. So I'll kind of have a visual recording, because my mood could change from day to day. Here's another one that I worked on. This one was watercolor paper. I forgot to tell you the papers. This one's just multi-purpose paper. This one is yellow cardstock. Okay, so this is another emotional landscape art that I made on 10/22. Yeah, it actually goes that way. Sorry, holding it upside down. So this one I started out with Sharpies, and I just like to make unusual lines and just different. Sometimes I do like asymmetric writing, but I just like to make really just weird marks, almost like a symbol, but you don't really know what the symbol is. And I like the way the lines interact together, and just the different pops of pink in contrast to the yellow. I kind of like that too. So I really like this one. This one here is another emotional landscape art, and I started this one on 10/18. Oops, I'm holding this one upside down as well. I started this on 10/18 and I finished this one on 10/23. And if I do more than one art that day, we'll put like 01 and then 02, 03. And I've started including my dates for my titles because I make so much art, I can't always think of a new title. And unless the art is just really compelling me with a theme or something that's speaking to me, or God speaking to me through the art, I don't usually title it other than the date. So this one I like. I did a little asymmetric writing down there and some Sharpie work, and then the oil pastels and the tissue paper and the scrapbooking paper. And I did a little sgraffito, like right in here where I scratched into the oil pastels. I like doing that a lot. And I have some sgraffito over here as well. So this one's kind of cool, I think. Okay, so then another interesting thing I did starting this past 10 days is I started to make response art for my therapy sessions. I started therapy. I've had 11 years of therapy, but I had a break of like 5 years. So I recently started again, and we just now started to talk about my military sexual trauma like in the last 2 weeks. So that's what my response art is about. So in the day of the first session, which was not this past Tuesday, but the Tuesday before, I made this Sharpie drawing, which I think is interesting because I was talking about a trauma that happened to me when I was 19 years old. And back when I was 19, I made a lot of these Sharpie drawings while I was in the Army. Because, you know, I couldn't carry around a lot of art supplies, but a Sharpie and a sketch pad, or, you know, just a mixed media paper pack is something you could easily carry around. And so I would do a lot of these Sharpie drawings, and I really like that. But so this one kind of reminds me of that. I would do sort of similar designs as what this one is. Okay, so then later that day I also made this one, which is interesting because I got some gouache and I used it for the first time. Other than I used to have, I still have one off-white tube of gouache, which I tried once for a portrait. But other than that, I never used gouache, except for this day. So I made this one in response to that therapy session where she asked me to think about whether or not I have poor judgment, because, you know, I thought that maybe I did because of a bad decision I made, which put me in that situation when I was 19. And she's like, I want you to think about that and challenge yourself, because I don't think your judgment was any worse than any other 19-year-old, and so more blame should be on the person who hurt you versus me blaming myself for making a bad decision. I'm not going to go into details because I don't want to upset anybody, but so that's what this artwork was about. And after I finished with the gouache work, I went over it with Sharpie. So I do really like the way this one looks. Holding it upside down. Why do I keep doing that? Oh, you know why I did that? It's because I have the date written upside down on the back of it. But this is the way it goes right here. So one thing I like about art, like when you do response art, and I did make a video of this one, like if you have a lot of emotions, you can work through your emotions through your art, and I would recommend doing that. And because I'm doing CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, which I probably wouldn't have chosen that, but because I'm going through the military, that's what they chose for me. But she doesn't really work through the feeling so much as the thinking. And in my opinion, thinking is maybe 25% of the problem. But it's important to address, and I think it'll really help me. So anyway, so that's one thing. She had me look at whether or not I have poor judgment. So I've been working through that. Okay, and then the session that I had this past Tuesday, then we went and we talked about that a little bit more. I don't want to go into details because I want to sort of share this process with you and how you might do it yourself if you're in recovery or therapy, without sharing too much private details. But this one captured the feelings that I had afterwards, which was frustrated and sad, But you know, with those feelings, when you get it out in the art, there was also a sense of relief. Like relief that I'm making sure I'm holding it the right way. Relief that I can actually use art to express myself and, you know, work through those emotions. And maybe I don't have words yet. Maybe I don't even understand the complexities of my emotions, but it's all here in my art regardless. And then later I can go back and dig deeper. I can really kind of see, like, what do I see? I titled this one The Other Side. And to me, it looks like a person. This looks sort of like a door right here. This looks like a person that's trying to go to the other side. Like maybe there's something, you know, once I get past this point, you know, work through all these feelings, maybe there's something better on the other side of that. Or, you know, something better waiting for me. You know, once I get through all the current stressors. So I don't want to get too emotional. That's why I was trying to pause there for a moment. Okay, another interesting thing I did is I worked on that digital image, which I shared with you the past 10 days. Now, this one is not looking as nice as the last one I shared with you, which printed out much more evenly. I don't know why this one didn't print out exactly the same way. But remember I said that I wanted to take this print and actually create art on top of it with my art materials, my fine art materials versus digitally. This one was created digitally on Coral Painter, and I used 3 of my jelly prints that I liked, and I combined them into one layer, you know, 3 layers, dropped it down to 1 layer, and then I used watercolor, digital watercolor, and a few other art mediums on the Coral Painter to make this, which I didn't really like that much, but I was getting frustrated. I'm better in you know, real life, like fine art, than I am digital. So this one then is where I painted on it from the digital print. So this is the print that I showed you last last 10 days. And I painted on it with gouache, and I used oil pastels, and I might have used acrylics. And I tried to make a video of this, but I think I was having battery issues on my phone, so I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to salvage enough to show you. So that's maybe a video on that one. And then I also had 3 different sessions this past 10 days where I did jelly printing and decorative paper making, which I love to do. And especially like when I come home from work, I sometimes get home late, and if I'm tired or feel like there's too much going on where it's hard to like really have uninterrupted quiet time, I will make something that's less emotional and more decorative, like the jelly printing. So this session was on 10/19, so I have it grouped according to the paper. So this was origami paper. This is rice paper. So this was one big jelly print that I cut into just to make it easier to scan. So here's this one. I do know how to splice it together on the scanner. You know, like if I hadn't cut it, what I would do is just put one side, scan that, and then flip it over and do the other side, scan that, and then splice it together in Photoshop. All you have to do is erase the lines, overlap the layer, erase the one line, and then drop the layer, and then use the magic wand to clean it up a little bit. Anyway, here is the other jelly print. I didn't feel like doing all that for each of these because it is a little time consuming. So I just cut these in half. So I would like to make a collage pack in the future, maybe like a year from now or 2 years from now, where I'm selling, you know, strips and bits of collage fodder, like jelly prints and things. So that is why I'm making it all. Plus, the practice will help me get better at it. So this one's kind of cool. I have the stamps and just different things. Also, I like to use some Distress Oxide sprays for my jelly prints. I mean, oftentimes, not every time, but this is also on rice paper. And I really like the subtle look of this one and the colors. And then this is the last of the rice paper. It was very fragile and ripped, so I just kind of cut it in strips. And this one has the Distress Oxide spray on it as well. And I used a stencil to get those marks on it. Okay, now also used origami paper that day. And so this one has a lot of different layers on the gel plate and Distress Oxide spray. And I also did some mark making. And I'm trying to remember if I did it on the gel plate or straight on to the paper. Because sometimes I'll just mark right on the paper too. I go back and forth. And I don't hold back. I'm just trying to play around and experiment. So I like this one. It's very subtle, but I like it. So I discovered for me and my jelly printing, in my art, sometimes I like there to be a lot of subtle details and nuances. I like to look more organic, and I like it to be more abstract. And I usually like multiple stencils rather than just one, 2 layers or 3 layers with just, one whole stencil. So this is another one I did on origami paper. And it's also got some stamps on here and some different stencils. I tried to make just simple gel prints, but I have trouble with just keeping things simple. Maybe I need to work on that, or maybe I should just embrace that that's part of my style, is like layered and complex and nuanced and detailed and a little bit loose and a little bit tight, like back and forth, a little bit of doing and undoing. I know I'm that way. Okay, this one I love. This is a gel print. It's almost like a work of art. Oh, and this one I was struggling with. So afterwards, I went back with metallic watercolors. I say, go for it. Like, why limit yourself to just a gel print? Like, if you can beautify it with something else, then go ahead and do that. So I got out the metallic watercolor paint and I went over the whole thing, and it just made it glisten. And there was a lot of mark making with the swirls. I guess this time I did a lot of swirls and stuff in my jelly print. And in the scan, I did one whole scan, and then I did 2 sides too, so you can see it a little bit more closely in the 2 halves. And then also I found a paper bag that I had opened up, and I just use that as well on the gel plate. This one's got some kind of glue or something that makes it kind of stick together in a big wad. But I still think it's kind of cool. And then we got this one right here. So then also on that, we're still on 1019. I also use my under paper, which I got, from packaging, from, art supply orders. And it was like a big long thing. And I used it then as my under paper, but then I cut it up. Well, I did some mark making on it. I put, gold paint, and I also did some pencil scribbles, and I did some markers, purple marker like you can see right here. But I think these look kind of cool. And they have like just this really interesting texture to it. And of course, they're all, some of them are kind of wrinkled. All right, so now we're on to another gel print session. This was on 1022. All right, so this is multimedia paper. So the first beginning ones are going to be multimedia papers. So this is several different stencils, different paints. It's kind of reminds me of Christmas a little bit with the red and sort of a grayish blue. This one has so many layers, and I played around with Sumi ink on this one, but for some reason I didn't want it to be bold. I don't know what. Sumi ink is very bold, but then I just wasn't happy with it, so I did more and more layers, and then it maybe got a little too subtle. I don't know, but it's pretty. I like the red. It's got some Distress Oxide spray, Rusty Hinge, and just different colors. And it's got some swirls you could barely see on there. And this is also multi-purpose paper. Also was made very similar way. Just lots and lots of layers. Sumi ink, gold paint, and swirls, you know, that I did just on my paper. Different stencils, like dark ones and you know, with dark paint, and then lighter ones, and I just kind of mixed it all up. This one's more plain. This one's kind of like just me using paper to get up the ghost print, but it wasn't half bad. So then I did another layer with some yellow, I think it was yellow oxide or something like that. So that one, and then I also sprayed this a little bit with Distress Oxide spray. I kind of like to add that. It just gives it sort of a grungy look, but also I just find it interesting, and sometimes I think it beautifies it a little bit. This one I struggled with, but I kind of like it. It's like green and orangey and yellow, but it reminds me of a garden, and yeah, it's pretty cool. We're still on the multimedia paper. This one also was just like a pickup one, but it wasn't too bad. And then I sprayed it with some Distress Oxide sprays. This one as well, like, was a pickup one of the ghost print. This one's kind of cool though. I like it. And then this one actually was just to absorb a little bit too much Distress Oxide spray. So this is not even a jelly print. It's just all Distress Oxide spray. And I mixed up the colors a little bit with the purple and the Rusty Hinge and just different ones. So then so that was 10/20, okay, October 20th. So all those were made on October 20th. So this is another jelly printing session on October 22nd. So the first three I'm going to show you are what I call throwaway art. Not my throwaway art, but at work, I work in a psychiatric hospital with people, and I do group art therapy. And so sometimes, especially the teenagers, they like to start over again. And although I try to help them work through their difficulties and problem solve, sometimes they just want to start over, and I let them. But lately I've been saying, okay, don't throw that away. We'll save that, because paper can be recycled and reused, especially like if it's intact. So this was a throwaway collage. And what I did is I saved it, took it to the gel plate, did several different layers, so pretty much covered up the collage. And then I did some red swirls, which I'm pretty sure I put on the gel plate. Pressed it all down, and I think this will be interesting collage fodder. I'll cut it up and probably put it into one of my packs. This one, too, had one single line on it. And rather than throw that away, I was like, wait, I'm going to save it and use it. So this one was on the gel plate. I used like sort of like a bumblebee stencil, but I wasn't that interested in the bumblebee, but I like these little honeycomb shapes. And I'm trying to remember how I got this white one, if that was white paint, but I like that distress look. And so there are going to be some videos of my gel printing session. I think it was the one on the 20th that I videoed. Although there might be more than one, I'm not sure. It's hard to remember. I have so many videos. I'm like about 14 videos behind, which means usually that's about a 2-month delay. That's also partly why I started doing these videos, to show you what I've been working on, so you can see it, what I've been working on closer to real time. And then also you can get a prelude of what's to come. And I think that helps integrate my like personality and the type of art I do like on a regular basis with the videos, because of course I can't make a video of all the art I do. As you can see, I'm always like doing some type of art, maybe not necessarily every day, but almost every day. And then typically in 10 days, you know, I'll have like 30 pieces of work. So you can at least see that. And then in some of those I'll have videos of it. So if you're interested in seeing anything in a video, or see me do anything or explain anything a little bit more, just let me know. So anyway, this is the last of the throwaway art. This was a collage as well, and I put it on the gel plate, but I also took Caran d'Ache crayons, and I did a lot of different colors, kind of similar to what the tissue paper would look like. So this is some marks I made, and that one as well, and that one as well, and this over here I made, and basically covered up all the collage with sort of some blues and stuff. But there's some subtle different marks and things with the stencils I did. So this one I think is really cool. It's going to be cool cut up into collage pieces. So these three were all done on throwaway watercolor paper, which I didn't throw away, obviously. So this one is done on origami paper. It was actually yellow origami paper with some little flower or some type of decoration. You can't really see it, like a whole bunch of little tiny ones. So I did lots of different layers, and I also did some mark making on this one. There's a little hole, but when I did the scan, I fixed that hole so you can't see it. And then this is another one I did. Again, we're on October 22nd, and oranges and greens and things like that. And yeah, this one doesn't have any marks on it, but it does have distress oxide sprays. So I think it's kind of interesting to like have so much variety of different types of papers. And here's another one. This one does have some marks on it, some crayons and things, and I don't know, I just do these random little marks like right here. But when I cut it up, you know, it'll be interesting for like a collage fodder. You know, I like the colors of this. And then this one was like a cleanup paper, but look how cool that looks. You know, ghost prints are like, I almost think I like the ghost print more than the first print. So, and this one has some distress oxide sprays on it as well. And then there's two more little scraps, also made on October 22nd. This one was a piece of like watercolor collage, and I think it might have just been like, I can't remember. It was like a scrap that I added to a long time ago, but I recently took it to the gel plate, did some layers on it, and then took some Sumi ink to it. I think it goes this way. I like the Sumi ink marks. I think it's kind of cool. And then this one was just, I think this is newsprint. And I was practicing writing. Well, all things are beautiful within time. I use that quote for one of my paintings, which you'll see in the future. You haven't seen it yet. But obviously I didn't use this one. This was just on scrap paper. I guess I was trying to get the pen to write, or making sure, I don't know. I don't know why I did that, but I like this print as well. And that concludes my presentation of my work, but a slide will follow, a slideshow. So stick around if you want to see these papers and artwork with a high quality scan in the slideshow. And have a great day. Thank you for stopping by. Be blessed. Make time for your art. Take care of your feelings. If you are in a healing journey like me, or you're recovering from something, well, I'm assuming you probably like art or you wouldn't be here, but I would just strongly encourage you to use your art to help you work through your feelings and just bring healing to you. And one thing, like I said, I really love about art is that even when it's too deep or too complicated or too big to fully process verbally or even thinking wise, when you make the art, it helps you process that with not even fully understanding it, but then you can go back later and you can analyze it and you can study it to try to make sense of it, and it can help you really get a deeper connection to yourself. And as a trauma survivor, that's really important. That's really why I started making art in the first place, was to connect more to myself, because the trauma, fractured me. So I will always use art first and foremost to bring healing to myself. I do sell my art, and I want to work towards selling on a more regular basis. I'm not really trying to do that now just because time, but like I'm working towards a retirement plan. And when I am able to stop working, I want to go into full-time, art making and ministry and all that. So, but one of the things, my goal is the Etsy store maybe in a couple years when I am able to stop working. I don't know if that plan is realistic or not, but I'm got things in the works to try to work towards that. So, with God's grace, maybe. And anyway, but I always love making art. I've done art my whole life. From the time I was like 4 years old, I've done art. So I'm like, I've never not been an artist. Whether or not, people love my work. I mean, I'm not well known. I do have pretty good online presence, but I don't know. I just feel like I haven't had any formal training. And maybe other than 5 art classes, maybe if I would have had formal training, I would be better at art. And sometimes I wonder if all the art making I am doing has really made me a better artist. I think about the parable of the talents, and I think, Lord, I've invested so much talent, I've invested so much time and energy and resources. Have I really grown exponentially compared to the amount of investment I put in? I'm not sure. Sometimes I feel discouraged, maybe I haven't. But then I kind of have this idea that one day, all this work, right now I'm still maybe finding my voice, or maybe I sort of found my artistic voice, but I'm sort of all over the place, which I think is part of my own personality. I don't think I can just do one thing and only that. I think I have to dabble in lots of different things. And so I get so interested in a bunch of different things. But one day I think that all this art making and the jelly printing and even the scraps I do and the marks that I make will one day maybe just emerge in this, awesome work of art. Well, I feel like I sometimes have really awesome works of art, but it's inconsistent, or maybe awesome is too strong a word. I feel like I have good works of art, but maybe one day my artwork will be more valued. First and foremost, it's always been for me to heal. But I think it's important to be true to yourself and be authentic. I just don't want to make sellable art. I want to make authentic art. And I think if you stick to, to your truth, eventually that will work out. Or even if it doesn't work out as far as sales go, it's worked out as far as promoting, my mental health. And if even a few people are blessed by this channel, are encouraged or inspired, then, to me, that's worth it too. I guess you could say my art is geared more so towards healing for myself, directing it for other people, and also prophetically, as I'm a prophetic artist. And God speaks to me and heals me through the art making. Boy, I didn't mean to be so long-winded here. And but yeah, I've been watching some documentaries on different artists, and it's really inspiring. But sometimes I ask myself, because I always thought as a child I'd be a full-time artist someday. But it hasn't actually happened yet, or I haven't had as much success in it as of yet, but at the same time, I haven't really put myself out there. Like, I haven't done a lot of art shows. I've done a few, and I haven't done like art fairs just because there's a little bit of financial investment, which I'll get to that eventually. There's also the time investment. Time, not having a lot of time is my biggest issue. But still, I try to like stay busy with some type of art making. So I guess that's what I'm trying to say, no matter what your schedule is. And even if you feel like your art's not going anywhere, keep doing it. Maybe one day it'll pay off financially, but maybe even if it doesn't pay off financially, it will pay off in your well-being. Because studies show that art is really good for your brain, your neuroplasticity, and it helps prevent dementia because your brain is thinking. So it's really good. I don't know why I'm so talkative. Bye, everybody. Take care. And I want to say I love you, but I do. I'm sending love towards you, even though I don't really know you, but I'm sending love towards you. Be blessed.